Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you guys are. Guys, I've been asked a question by one of my subscribers, Jim. He asked me a question about Bivol and the Canelo situation, so I thought I'd address it. Address this situation. Now, Jim has asked me that, Imran, what do you think about the rematch clause? Firstly, the rematch clause and the fact that Bivol um, should he really oblige if Canelo's got a rematch clause in the contract? Should he really oblige and fight Canelo again, or should he move on? Because he doesn't seem too interested in the Canelo fight. Now, what I will say is this: is that I don't know. Firstly, if there was a rematch clause in the contract. And if there was, normally the rematch clause is a like expiration date. Now, Canelo's not going to fight Bivol next. And Bivol's had another fight in between. Now, Canelo didn't obviously exercise that rematch clause. So I don't know what the contractual situation is on that rematch clause. Can Canelo activate that at any time, or is it a case where that rematch clause has an expiration date? Because let's not forget, Canelo could have fought Bivol again, but he decided not to, and fought Gennady Golovkin. So maybe the rematch clause at that point expired. So it all depends what it is contractually. But what I would say is that I personally think that Canelo should probably avoid Dmitry Bivol, and I'm not one for saying that. And I'm normally a guy that says, you know what, no, I would like to see that rematch again. But I actually think Canelo should avoid Dmitry Bivol, in my opinion. I don't think Canelo should be fighting Dmitry Bivol. I think if Canelo wants to prolong his career, I don't think that's a good fight for him, personally. I think there's many other fights where he could really enhance his legacy. And look, sometimes you get beat. Canelo got beat by Floyd Mayweather, and look, he never avenged that loss. So look, sometimes what I think Canelo should do, this is personally, and this probably gives him less of a chance of beating Bivol anyway, what I'm going to say, but I think this is what he should do. What Canelo should do is secure his legacy. And what I mean by legacy is I think Canelo's still fresh enough, he's still good enough. He should fight the likes of Andre, Charlo, and Benavidez, get those guys out the way. Once he gets those guys out the way, he secured his legacy, because then these American fans that criticize Canelo 24/7 can't do that. Beat those guys, right? Finish those guys, finish with them, beat them, and then, in my opinion, what Canelo should do is then go for Dmitry Bivol. Now, some may say, oh, by then he'll be like 34, 35, have more miles on the clock, and Bivol's still young. I get all of that. But if he loses to Bivol now, effectively, it's the end of Canelo. It might be the end of Canelo's reign. Now, if he loses to one of those guys, that could be the case as well. But I think he has a very good chance of beating all three of those guys. And he then can rematch Bivol later down the road. Whereas if he loses to Bivol again, where will that leave those fights? Where will that leave those fights? So I personally think Canelo's got a lot of unfinished business at 168 with those guys. And I don't think he needs to chase Bivol at this point. Because not like Bivol's an old man where Bivol's going to go away. Bivol's going to be around. Is Canelo the one that's going to get old? He's the one that got the miles on the clock. So for me personally, I think Canelo Alvarez should pursue other avenues. And I think Canelo should avoid Dmitry Bivol. Canelo, in my opinion, should avoid that fight and fight those other guys. I kind of agree with some of the Americans that were saying that Canelo shouldn't fight Dmitry again. I'm kind of swaying. I don't think Canelo will do that, because I think Canelo's cut differently, and I think Canelo's been cut deep, that he lost to Bivol, so he would want to avenge that loss. But I personally think that Canelo should avoid that fight, because I think that fight would probably end in the result being exactly the same. I don't think Canelo will be able to overcome that, especially the way he's looked recently. So for me, personally, I think Canelo should look to avoid that fight. And I'm not one to really say that, but I think Canelo should avoid Bivol, fight Benavidez, fight Andrade, fight Charlo, fight those guys, secure his legacy, and then maybe go for a Bivol rematch, which probably he'll have less of a chance because there'll be more miles on the clock. He'll be older. So he might have less of a chance. And who, at that point, in a couple of years' time, maybe Bivol's moved on to cruiserweight. Who knows? But I personally think that might be a good way for Canelo. The other thing is that if Bivol moves on to cruiserweight or something, or moves up weight division, Canelo light heavyweight division, there isn't really any of the other stars coming up at light heavyweight that you'd think that Canelo can't go up there and do well, even at a later stage in his career. Older version of Canelo may be able to do it, because apart from Beterbiev and Bivol, you can't really see anybody at light heavyweight beating him. So, in my opinion, maybe Canelo should do that. Canelo might be in a position where he might even be able to go and unify the light heavyweight division, even at an older age, because just of the lack and depth of talent at that division. So this is why I'm saying that I personally think that Canelo Alvarez should hang out in 168, defend his undisputed titles, and clean up around there. Because those fights are very winnable fights for him. Honestly, those are very, very winnable fights for him. A lot of those guys like Charlo are so inactive. Andrade's so inactive. I mean, Benavidez, yeah, he's going to fight Plant. He's a bit more active than those guys. But they're so winnable fights for Canelo. I mean, and like Bivol's a very tough fight. It's a fight that, you would probably say Canelo has probably like, I would give him maybe 35% chance. Whereas those fights, I give him 70% chance, 65% chance. I mean, give him a higher percent chance of beating those guys. So that's why I think he should take those fights and avoid the Bivol fight if he wants to prolong his career as a marketable fighter and as a market. Because if he loses to Bivol again, that's gonna hurt his credibility. I mean, Joshua, for example, Joshua was a big star. Joshua losing to Usyk, that's hurt his credibility. He's not seen as the same guy. I mean, Canelo, if he loses again, and especially coming to the age he is, the amount of fights he's had, Canelo will be looking at the end of his career. So that's why I think Canelo should be looking at other names. He should be looking at the guys at 168, clean up down there. Then maybe a couple years time, he could fight Bivol down the road. That's what I think Canelo should do. But let's see. Personally, I think Canelo should avoid that fight, but I don't think he will. I think I think he's too proud a man to lose a fight and then not want to revenge it. I think he's got that in his head. So I think the Bivol fight is probably going to happen. But yeah, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.